Hey there. Welcome to the Pelvis Project podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Roxy. We're two pelvic health experts brought together by passion for our careers, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and the desire for intentional relationships.
Join us in our mission to spread pelvic floor awareness and start conversations surrounding the truth behind genuine health, imperfect wellness, and joyfully navigating life. We are so glad you are here with us.
Let's start the conversation. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Roxy.
Happy Tuesday, friend.
I know. Tuesday at 9:39 p.m.
We are on a roll.
I know. We can't seem to get on here any sooner.
That's okay. That's all right.
All right. Well, let's start
here.
off with our tell me something good. You can do it.
I do. I have something good.
Good.
On, let's see, Sunday night, the girls at the clinic and I went to a flower farm. And
I saw that.
We picked flowers and it was so fun. We have a little flower farm here by Abilene, and they drove up and we spent the evening picking beautiful flowers and get to take them home and make our own bouquets. And it was fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Flower farms are so pretty and peaceful and just.
Yeah. It was just us and then the flower farmer and flower farm lady. And the sunset was beautiful. And yeah, it was just calm and peaceful. And it was just what I needed after a long weekend.
Yes. That's awesome. Okay. So the kids started school and Owen is, I think I've talked about it before, that we found out he's dyslexic last year. Anyway, he's just had a really great start to the school year, and his teacher is just so amazing. And she has given so many compliments and just told us how proud she is of Owen and how hard he's working. And it just feels good as a parent. Well, both of them. It's just been a good start. And they're always cheerful and happy to get back to it, even though sometimes they want to sleep in and all that stuff. So it's been good.
Good. Well, let's jump in.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the probably most thought of diagnosis when people think of pelvic floor therapy, and that is stress incontinence.
Mm-hmm.
So, Megan, do you want to give us just a quick definition? It doesn't have to be.
Let me give you a little rundown.
It doesn't have to be official, but just what is that and why do we want to talk about it?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So stress urinary incontinence, otherwise known, sometimes you might see SUI. And basically what that is that you leak urine when you laugh, cause, sneeze, jump, something along those lines, throw up, that sort of thing. Where urge incontinence might be that you're on your way to the bathroom and urine starts just coming out, or you pull up into the driveway and you can't, you're like, I was trying to hold it and urine leaks. And then you can have one where there's a combination of the two. But we're going to talk this episode just about stress urinary incontinence, just that diagnosis in of itself. And like Roxy said, this is probably one of the most common things people associate pelvic floor therapy with leaking. And so first myth that we're going to debunk is that you only leak urine after you have kids, or it's because you've gotten older or anything like that. That really has age, having kids. That is not the determining factor on if you're going to have stress urinary incontinence, if you're going to leak urine. We see individuals who are young athletes. We see individuals that have never had kids. We have seen people that have had kids.
Men have this.
Men, kids, all the things.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully we'll provide some clarity and stress urinary incontinence and some of the reasons why it can happen. And some of the things that Roxy and I particularly do not like as treatment plans. Okay, Roxy. So why don't you lead us off with what we see commonly of why we have stress urinary incontinence?
Sure. So the most common reason that people think we see it is because the muscles are weak. I think we did a podcast a while back about tight versus weak. And so if you want to really deep dive on that, definitely go back and look for that one. I don't know what number it is, but it's there. But basically, we want our pelvic floor to be like a trampoline. And so you think about when a little kid or an adult, if you're a brave soul and you jump on the trampoline, right? When someone jumps on a trampoline, that trampoline absorbs the shock and it lengthens, it like goes
Mhm.
closer to the ground. And then that allows it then to recoil back up. And that's exactly what we want our pelvic floor to do. And so majority of the time that is not happening. And that can be from a variety of reasons. Usually if the muscles are too tight, then they're not super flexible. You think about a brand new trampoline that's never been jumped on, it's going to be like a little firmer. And then if you get a trampoline that a bunch of high school boys have been jumping on for years, then it's going to give a lot more, right? And so the difference is how tight that, that trampoline is. If the muscles are tight, then they don't absorb that shock. And then it's more like jumping on concrete, like that pressure, that cough, that sneeze, whatever it is, that jump land, that pressure comes down on that set of muscles. And instead of absorbing the shock, it's just like hitting a brick wall. And then it's just a mathematical equation. Is the pressure greater than the amount of resistance in those firm, tight, unmovable muscles? And if the muscles lose that math equation, then leakage happens.
Yeah. The sphincter just cannot hold it
Yeah.
any further. The pressure
Yeah.
just overrides that ability.
And it also thinking about like a can of pop, like if the pressure inside that can of pop is greater than the integrity of the can itself, then we get a can that explodes. And so it's just
Mhm.
like that. It's just a math equation finally at that point. But if we have something that can absorb that shock, then we improve our chances of not having that leakage, or we almost minimize it from happening at all.
Yeah. Another part of that too is okay, so if you have a pelvic floor that's let's say not able to lengthen, so it runs on the higher tension side. When we have that tension in the muscles and we have the tension in the fascia, that means we're going to have tension through where those nerves run. And there's a specific branch of one of the main nerves to the pelvic floor that innervates the sphincters, the urinary sphincters. And so if it's not able to have good input because of that tension and the inability for it to lengthen, again, we're also going to have leaking because it can't contract the way that it needs to. So now we have a nerve involvement where it's not getting innervated correctly, or optimally, so it can't contract the way it should. Then we have a pressure system coming down on it. So now the math equation just got worse. And that's something that we need to take into account. And normally when we start to address these things and we're working on lengthening those pelvic floor muscles, everything starts to kind of line up a little clearer as to, what's the root cause of why that tightness has gotten there in the first place, all that kind of stuff. And as Roxy mentioned with the pressure, another component is how our posture and the way that we're breathing is impacting the stress urinary incontinence. So, for example, if you have somebody who is on the borderline of they're like inconsistent with leaking and maybe they can go for a while and not leak and then maybe they do, they're working on it, but they go to sneeze and they sneeze in a really hunched over position where they're all curled forward. That posture for that is going to cause a lot more pressure down on that pelvic floor. And so we have to be looking at how do we manage and how do we accommodate for those pressures. So Roxy, do you have anything you want to talk about that on stuff that you see happen?
Oh, sure. I mean, I just think about I'm such a visual person, so I always have like pictures in my head. I just think about when we squeeze out toothpaste and you like wring it
Yeah.
all out.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of how I equate just that poor posture with of like it just funnels it all down. It doesn't allow for that system to, I mean, if we really think about shock absorption, if we're crunched like that, then that doesn't allow for it doesn't allow for everywhere to give. Only that pressure goes down on the pelvic floor. It
Yeah.
doesn't go into the belly or the sides or the back or anywhere else. We want that to happen. We want everybody to kind of take a little load off of that. And when no one does, then the pelvic floor gets it all. And then boom, leak,
Yep. Leak.
soggy bottoms.
Soggy bottoms. Okay, so something else, just talking about like pressure is I see a lot and I work with my patients on it, patients with this is, I don't know if you've noticed this, Roxy, but some people, when they cough like they're like good, like up and out. Like you can see like the core and everything kind of brace and help get the cough up and out. And then there's people you have that you notice them coughing, and when they cough, it's deep and down into their belly. And there is a total difference with that. And so sometimes I have to retrain, like kind of like a little, you feel that. I mean, sometimes, it's hard to retrain, like catching yourself. But if you feel a cough coming on, like really automatically, it's like that pelvic floor should kick on. You get that core down. It's trying to help get it out. And sometimes that has to be cued because it just becomes like a pattern that isn't as optimal, if you will. So another one I was thinking of, Roxy, of course, we love talking about constipation.
Mm-hmm.
All different reasons why we leak urine, people.
Yeah, so when we're constipated, we have bowel that's sitting there and it's pressing against the bladder, and there's a lot more pressure down there because there's just less space in general, and so that constipation's pushing up on the bladder, which decreases the capacity of the bladder. And then also the muscles then there's a reason it's sitting there. It's because it's either not moving very fast or it's like not quite there yet, or it's going to hurt and the body knows that, or whatever. So the muscles also are kind of like gearing up for that and are avoiding that and holding that in. And so then it fuels that tension.
Yeah.
With that almost always. That's the first thing we treat.
Yeah. We're always like, first question, constipation.
Yeah.
Because if anybody has leaked once, the body automatically like you don't want that to happen again. So you inadvertently feel like you're like always contracting, like always trying to like make sure you're not going to leak. And eventually that ends up leading to some of this excessive tension. And like Roxy just said, that can affect your ability for the bowel to come down because of the tight puborectalis. And then if the bowel sits there, then we're pushing on the bladder. And then the bladder's like right behind the pubic bone in this nice little pocket of space. It's very small. And it just all compiles on each other. So the other thing with that, just one more thing to say about constipation, if you're listening to this, it is not normal to only poop a couple times a week. So if that's kind of like what you've thought, or you're like, that's just me, I think we need to circle back and you need to look into some things, because we really should be having valve movements every day. And just because you go poop every day doesn't mean you're not constipated. So this is a little nugget. Let's see here. What else, Roxy? Any other little lovely things about stress incontinence?
Well, I think that, going back to, you hit on it a little bit of like, if you've leaked before, then you're in that tension, but we have to appreciate the nervous system then is like protecting you from shame and embarrassment in worst case scenario. So reflexively, your body just kind of holds and grips. And so I think we appreciate just the ripple effect that it has on our bodies to be in a state of guarding and anticipation all the time. We never let that guard down then, which promotes good sleep and good rest and good digestion and all these good things. So if we're kind of in that like heightened state, and which I think is a beautiful thing that our body does have that ability to protect us without us always realizing it's happening. We just can't be stuck in that. And that just seems like a lot of people with stress incontinence is they don't realize how guarded and how tight they subconsciously are because they're afraid to leak. So like kind of the nervous system component, and then also just the mental load. I don't know how many people, when we get through with them and their leakage is gone, and them even noticing like, yeah, that's great, but man, like my mental clarity and just my like well-being is so much like better. I didn't realize how much energy was consumed with me making sure I know where the bathroom is, or like making sure that I like empty all the time, or that I have extra protection or pads, or I have dark pants on, or whatever it is. Like that all just gets to like clear the air, and without them realizing how much is on their mind, that also then fuels that tension cycle. Just like always being aware takes a lot of energy and capacity that fuels just then the musculoskeletal side of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole, I mean, I can speak for Roxy and I just because I know we treat similar, but it is not uncommon. We hear it a lot that people come in for one thing, maybe something like urinary leaking, and they leave a completely different person and literally say that the pelvic floor therapy that they've received and completed is life changing. And part of that too is just learning to connect with your body, learning to actually trust it and listen to it. And as women, again, I think we said this in one of our last episodes, but we don't really even know, we're not aware, we weren't educated on those pelvic floor muscles and where the bladder sits and the vaginal canal and the uterus and the ovaries and the rectum and all that business. And so knowing that, you get empowered, you recognize what your body's doing. And it really is, it's just so cool. And when you improve the body awareness and you improve the connection to the pelvic floor, you improve overall ability to perform exercise because you have a level of awareness of your body like you didn't before. So maybe somebody who had difficulty coordinating certain things prior, that after they've completed and worked with, I mean, and I can't speak, I mean, not every pelvic floor therapist is created equally. So, I don't know. I just know what we do. And if, train to be aware and find those muscles and know what that feels like, it does cross over to so many other areas. So it's really cool to see those outcomes beyond the primary reason why somebody came. So we just ran through, quickly, just the generals of stress urinary incontinence. And I think that Roxy and I kind of talked before. I can't ever say it right. The chair.
EMSELLA.
EMSELLA. The EMSELLA chair, the V-tones, the Morpheus V8s, the Mona Lisas out there. All of those things, I think we are very leery of for people. So for instance, this chair, you're supposed to sit on it and basically it performs a whole bunch of pelvic floor contractions, i.e. Kegels, hundreds of them. And the problem with these devices that claim we'll come in and we'll do this and we'll do all these Kegels for you, and it's going to make your stress incontinence go away. There's a major disservice happening if whatever provider is performing that, giving that service, doesn't have a pelvic floor assessment done prior, doesn't have a pelvic floor screen done before. Because if somebody has constipation, painful intercourse, urinary incontinence, all these things, we need to know what the root cause is. And what we see is 90% of the time it's tension. And what these devices are claiming to do is increase tone. So if you already have increased tone and you're using a device to increase tone, that's a recipe for disaster. And if you're having painful intercourse and you're being told, well, this will help improve your elasticity and your collagen, but you haven't had those muscles assessed yet to see what exactly is going on, again, you don't have the full picture. And so I think that's our biggest beef with stuff like that is it's not a one size fits all, and it can be a Band-Aid, and those devices don't treat root cause. And so it's frustrating because they cost thousands of dollars. And I'm going to tell a little funny story, Roxy. The EMSELLA chair. So we were having a staff meeting on Friday. Yeah, hopefully I don't get anybody in trouble for this story. We were in a staff meeting on Friday. So we were of our team. We were all together. And we don't have a little like chime on our door. And so we're sitting there and somebody kind of comes around the corner and he's like, can I talk is Megan here? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. We're in a meeting, and I was like, I'll be right there. So you go up and it's a rep for one of those chairs.
Oh, geez.
And he hands me the flyers and he's like, hi, I'm here. Have you heard about this EMSELLA chair? And I go, oh yeah, I've heard of it. And he goes, oh, you have? Okay. And I said, yeah, I can tell you right now, this isn't something we're interested in. This does not align with what we do here. This is not, we don't believe in Kegels to solve these issues. This isn't what we do. And he goes, it doesn't cause Kegels. And I said, okay. And he goes, what it does is it causes a pelvic floor muscle contraction. And I said, I looked at him, I was like, yeah, which is a Kegel. And I mean, I was like kind, through the whole night laughing and trying to keep it lighthearted, that it just wasn't the fit for us. It just wasn't going to be it. And he was like, he was like, oh, right. Okay. Like I'm still learning. And he continues to rattle off all the different reasons why this chair can be helpful for men and women. And I just reiterated this doesn't align with our treatment philosophy. And we can get people better with these types of things in 3 or 4 visits sometimes. And we don't need to be spending thousands of dollars to sit on a chair and it's not functional. And then like he wanted me to come to this conference and I was just like, no. And
He's really selling it.
he did. And he ended with like, I just really think this would be a good fit for you. And oh man. And so I was just like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And so then I walked back and my husband was like, man, that poor guy didn't know that he was walking into the lion's den. So all that to say, nice guy, but it's silly. It's silly. There's some other new product out I saw that like you attach it to your underwear or something and it almost looks like a maxi pad and it's supposed to sit there and cause contractions. And I just like, and all these things say it's FDA approved. And I'm like, yeah, that just means it's not going to hurt anybody.
It's not going to kill you.
It doesn't mean that it is worth anything.
It's gold standard. Yeah.
I mean, gold standard. Come on.
Yeah. I think that there's always going to be something. So whether it's these things, whether it's the next latest and greatest, right? There's always going to be something that's catchy, that looks exciting, that's shiny, you know, and pelvic rehab isn't always shiny, right?
Yeah.
It's not always
it takes work.
Yeah.
Dedication.
It's not always the quickest fix, the easy fix. I'm not like trying to down it at all, but sometimes the best things in life take the most investment, take the most time, take the most like intention and mindfulness. And, you know, you think about some of there's not to take it really deep, but like your close relationships, like those don't just happen. They're not as fast and like easy. Like there's some stumbling blocks, but that makes you better. All the things. So like, I just think about really just life lesson in general. Usually if it's like too good to be true, it kind of is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is. It's like if you're looking for a Band-Aid, there's a population of people that aren't going to value pelvic rehab. Maybe their need isn't bad enough yet. Maybe they don't have time for it because their need isn't bad enough. Maybe they don't realize the difference, you know? And that's where like those industries do a good job of marketing because they're obviously making money off of it. So people are obviously going for it. And that's fine. I mean, it's just like this is a subtopic almost, a little tangent I'm going on of like, it's just, you know, a lot of times when you put in the work, what we are teaching at pelvic rehab, we're lining your tool belt. So like you can go sit on a chair and that's all you leave with nothing. You leave with whatever that chair gave you. And what we're doing is we're going to help your body know how to work, how it was created to work, and teach you how to feel if that's right or not. Build in accountability and feedback and lots of options and themes so that you can apply what you learn to absolutely every area of your life. And if you start a new hobby or a new activity, that's great. That goes, you know, what we teach you, what we're teaching your body to do applies to that too. And you have the power to continue with that. No one's going to take that away from you. And it's like a lifelong investment into your own body. And so anyway, that's just kind of thinking about, man, it's just a quality piece. And some people aren't into quality. And we're not going to try to force anybody to do that.
I mean, and like, right. And like you said, I mean, there's a handful of people that maybe for whatever reason, one of those devices is appropriate, I suppose. But the biggest thing is just educating that those are there. They might be right for some people. They're not right for everyone. You need to have your education as to what you should have looked at prior to before you go down that road.
And if you're going to spend that much money, make sure you know that is the best choice.
Is the problem. Yeah. Make sure that you know that that's the problem, because normally they recommend multiple sessions that are thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I think I ran the numbers once and it was like, you could be seen, I think like, I don't know, what was it, like 8 or 9 times with us for like the equivalent of not even I can't even remember what it was, but I was like blown away that I just don't think people really understand. And I don't think anybody is ever going to like leave from one of those devices and be like, that was life changing. And because when we have people say that, it's beyond if their symptoms there's symptoms have resolved, but even if there's still something, even if we're midway through treatment and we're still working on symptom resolution while loading the system, we still get comments like that of like this whole experience and the relationship and my understanding my nervous system and learning how to breathe better and learning my sleep patterns and my nutrition and my core. It's been life changing. Nobody's going to say that. They went and sat down on a chair or laid on a table. So, but again,
to each his own.
To each his own. Well, we hope you learned something about stress incontinence. And we hope that you can ask yourself the questions of, am I leaking urine? Do I clench do I feel clenched all the time? Do I clench my glutes? Do I feel tense everywhere? Those are some little insights into, maybe it's tension. Do I have constipation also? Do I have painful intercourse also?
Is my posture.
Yeah. Yeah. What's my posture
my body
like?
Mechanics.
Am I always kind of rolled forward with my shoulders? Those are all the questions you can ask yourself. And the best place to get started is to have a pelvic floor assessment. And then from there, if you choose to do something else, fine. But you got to know what's going on. You would never go to get your cavity checked at the eye doctor. Okay. So go get it checked by who can check it and then get your plan in place. So, all right. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, we always appreciate any likes or shares or ratings on the podcast platforms. So we will keep the conversation going and talk to you at the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Pelvis Project podcast. Help us continue the conversation by liking and sharing this episode with friends. And if you really want to do us a solid, leave us a review. If you'd like to follow us on social, check out the show notes for links. And remember, this week, take a deep breath and relax your pelvic floor.